Good morning, everyone. I am Steve Wellbaum, and this is the All Sports Podcast. Thank you all so much for joining in today. We have a full slate of sports news and coverage to get to. So, very excited to have you with us. um, so, I'm just going to start off straight away with some NFL news. Drew Brees. I've been a fan of Drew Brees for as long as he's been in New Orleans, and I've been always wanting him to really. I feel like he for the longest time had not gotten the amount of respect that he should have, that he deserved. He was always looked down upon by people in football as undersized, as having an injury problem from going to trying to go to Miami from San Diego at the time, and then eventually making it to New Orleans. He had some troubles trying to get from place to place. Um, I I love Drew Brees' story, and until he won that Super Bowl, he had no verification or validation of him being even a top level quarterback. And when he eventually won it, they were like, okay, it's a great story. Hurricane Katrina just happened, and everybody wanted to look for that as as the as the story per se, and nobody really thought about Drew Brees as much. But with all of these, him now, as of this past Monday, he is now the current touchdown leader as of Monday. Um, I think that he will definitely stay the touchdown leader from now until whoever else could come in. If Mahomes keeps playing like he does, I don't think Rodgers can take him. Rodgers is coming down the home stretch of his career, and I don't think he's gonna catch him. Brady, I don't think so. I think that offense that he is running with New England is built to have good run games, um, attack with the offensive linemen, and then just get positive yardage from wide receiver screens. That's what it's going to be with Brady at the helm, because he is not the accurate thrower that he was. So I think Drew Brees is on a mission right now, to win another Super Bowl. He is determined, and he is going to keep those records because of the way that their offense is built, anyways. Um, an extension of their run game is those quick bubble plays to Michael Thomas, and to Traquan Smith, just getting them out on the edge, get the ball out quick, and have them run in. It's almost an extension of their run game. And even Alvin Kamara has motioned out of the backfield and got into some of those screen passes and then hit the gaps. So Drew Brees is and that offense is built to have the record, and Brees will have the record by the end of his career and Brady's career, because I feel like they are kind of in sync at the moment. And whenever Brady, excuse me, excuse me, whenever Brady decides to hang it up, it'll be the same time that Brees hangs it up. So, um, and yeah, I would like to see Brees go out with another ring. I my prediction is going to be a Brees Brady Super Bowl matchup. Um, though I do think that New England will win again. I think that New England has the best defense in the NFL. The 49ers they're definitely close, but I think New England will still win that game. Um, I would like to see Breeze go out on top though for sure. And he'll if he wins another ring, he might just hang it up this season. So moving on. Speaking of the Patriots, I've seen the video of the Spygate. If you don't know what happened over 2 weeks ago when the Bengals were playing the Browns, there was a documentary series that was online called "Do Your Job," and the Patriots wanted to film, get some footage from the perspective of the advanced scout, which is a job where they look over the sidelines and they bring back to the league office, not to any team, the league office, what exactly certain players are doing or what certain coaches are doing and what the tendencies are for the league to know. So they were filming the piece about the advanced scout and they were talking about the Patriots. So they had a Patriots guy come to that game and filmed from the press box down at the Bengals sideline. And there was no advanced scout. It was just them filming the sidelines and then back to the players on the field, and then after they got the play, back to the sidelines. So you can tell that this is a little bit incriminating. My opinion on it is there is a history of cheating throughout New England, from getting play sheets of other coaches to another instance of spying to deflated footballs. I know that's kind of a joke, but still it is something that happened in physical. There's just so many things that they have done that this has to be enforced and has to be enforced very strictly. The NFL is not going to do anything here because I feel like there's not a clear cut amount of evidence against New England. There was a video that came out that showed the what the cameraman had recorded, and Bengals staff were there watching the tape and on Sunday's game against New England, and the Bengals staff all were saying, like, where's the advanced scout? Why did you record the sidelines? Just questions, trying to get some answers from them. And the Patriots camera operator was saying, "Oh, I had no clue that this was wrong. I am so sorry. We can delete all of this now, right now. We could, and I don't have it. As soon as it's deleted, it's gone forever, and I can't get it back." Well, no. I highly doubt that the one copy he brought would be the only copy that they would have for the show. Especially when it seems like such a big operation from New England. So I wouldn't trust that was the case. I wouldn't say that New England used the sign stealing. If they were to have used the sign stealing, it probably didn't show as well in the Bengals Patriots game. I mean, you can't really use that for evidence as much, but still, there were a couple plays that Dalton looked like the coverage was right and they rotated the coverage. Two of Dalton's interceptions were on what looked like rotated coverage, especially the one to Stephon Gilmore. It seems like they were playing they were pressed in man and they jumped back into a zone, and it just seemed like it was a rotated coverage based off of what they were giving them. So you could maybe infer, but that's not concrete evidence against the Patriots. I think the NFL officiating is something a little bit more incriminating than what the Patriots were doing, honestly. So I think if I was the league office and I knew that this was happening and I knew it was New England, wouldn't it be in my best interest to kind of put an end to this and say, like, Belichick is suspended for X amount of days. Brady doesn't really have anything to do with this, so he would be able to stay. I think it would have to. There's no way that Belichick has no clue that this is going on. Like, he has to know any kind of football operations. He has to know about, because he runs that team, that franchise. And even Robert Kraft should know as well, and he shouldn't say he should know what's right and what's wrong, especially when Spygate happened. He should be able to say, this, we got in trouble for this a while ago. We don't want to get in trouble again, because that could mean us forfeiting wins. It could mean us forfeiting draft picks. It could mean us forfeiting like the playoffs. There's just so many things that could go wrong in that scenario. We don't know what the league office would do, because Roger Goodell doesn't really have a set, like, when this happens, do this. So they have no clue what their punishment could be. If I was running the league office, I would suspend Bill Belichick for it's really hard to say, because we don't know what the evidence is. I think I would go as hard as humanly possible, and then from there I would make it able to, depending on what kind of evidence comes out, shorten the amount of time for the suspension. So what I would do is say, I'm giving you a full season. You can't do anything. You can't be with the team. But you're able to appeal that based on what kind of evidence comes out. So that's just my opinion on that. Looking to next Sunday, very excited. This is going to be game of the week. It will define this this playoff race, I think. It will be Philly versus Dallas. I am very excited for this game. My issue with both of these teams, the reason why I think that they haven't been performing as well, Dallas obviously has an identity issue. They've overpaid their running back. They've given Zeke as much money as he wants to make him, I believe, the highest paid quarterback running back in football. Then they have decided to, with the help of he was a Boise State quarterback. I forget his name. Last name Moore. I don't know, but I'll think of it. The offensive coordinator for the Cowboys has decided to really put Dak in a lot of like shotgun and drop backs, when a lot of the times his best performances are off of play action. And I feel like they should be using a little bit more of their gadget players more and go to more of a college-style offense with a lot of just getting wide receivers in space, because they have good athletes at wide receiver. Randall Cobb is really, really good and underutilized. Michael Gallup is developing a little bit more and more as we see him. And then, of course, Amari Cooper is insane. I think Amari Cooper is a better player, not in space, but route running. So I probably wouldn't do that to him. But they still have they have Tavon Austin, which is a good gadget player that they should be utilizing. There's so many like little things that they could use in that offense that doesn't make it as limited. And when you take out the run game, your options are so small. And you should be able to muster some good running attacks with that great offensive line that the Dallas Cowboys have, and of course the best running back I think in the NFL. And look what happened when they actually utilized the running game. Zeke was a monster last week against the Rams. The Rams sort of came back a little bit in the second half, but at halftime it was 28-7. Are you kidding me? And you weren't using him all season? Gosh. I might sound like a homer here because I am an Ohio State fan, but Zeke Elliott is an insane back, and you have to utilize him if you want to win anything going forward. I think they'll get smoked once they get to the playoffs, whoever they play against. They'll probably, I thought it was the 49ers, so they're going to get destroyed. But they still have the chance of winning. I think Dallas will personally win this. My issue with Philly is something way worse because it's not a fixable issue. Their issue is their wide receiver core is gone. They have to start in 3 tight end sets. They almost sent out Josh McCown, their backup quarterback, to play wide receiver because they had so many injuries. Arcega Whiteside's out. Deshaun Jackson's out. Alshon Jeffrey is out. We maybe Nelson Aguilar will come back, but Aguilar has really regressed since the beginning of last season, and especially since the Super Bowl winning season. He has really just let it fall apart for him. So my issue is one that can't be fixed. Also, they have a secondary which is god awful. Their pass rush is pretty okay, but with all those strong wide receivers I was talking about for Dallas, they should be able to roll through that secondary, especially when they're playing. I believe they are playing at Dallas, which makes it a little bit more scary for Philly fans. Also, another small thing that I think is going to be a bigger problem going forward for Philly is I still have questions about Carson Wentz's abilities. I think he's a way better quarterback when you can get a running game started. I think he needs a running game to be successful. I don't think he is. I think the MVP season was very good for him, but he hasn't been the same since his injury. And it's kind of a joke, but it's honestly kind of true that he's living in the shadow of Nick Foles at this point, with what Nick Foles was able to do and how amazing he played in the Super Bowl in his absence and in the rest of the playoffs. It was just magical. So I would like to see Philly do well because I like their roster when they're all healthy. They're all fun, interesting, and innovative players. So I would like to see them perform well, but I just don't know if I think Dallas is not to mention Dallas's defense is kind of picking it up as of late, and Dallas's defense will look really good in this game with no wide receivers and having to cover corners with tight ends. So, it'll be really good to see this game. But I don't know if Carson Wentz can will them to a win, and I don't think that Philly's defense is going to stop such a good play action quarterback in Dak Prescott. So yeah. Moving on, we got some NBA news. I feel like I'm going to talk about him a lot because I think he's a very interesting player. But no Luca, no problem for Dallas. They are on this long stretch here. It's only 3 games, but it's gonna feel like a long stretch where they are gonna play some of the best teams from both sides of the conference, and they are going to have to beat them without Luka Doncic. I I think that roster is loaded and ready to fight for a Western Conference spot. I think they're going to have a lot of trouble. I think Utah is not the team that we expected Utah to be. Phoenix is doing well, but I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs. They might barely squeeze it in, but at this point right now, I know I said I believe that I said that I thought that Phoenix would get in, but I'm not so sure about that at the moment. Dallas looks insane. They the unicorn is playing his butt off, especially ever since he came, since he went to New York and played that game and got booed and all of that. He was on fire since that game, and he's not really let up. Seth Curry, yes, Seth Curry, not Steph, is lighting it up from going from a bench spot to kind of building himself into a full-time starter. I really enjoy watching him play, and that's what that team needed as another complement, a complementary perimeter shooter, and to their really strong guard in Luka Doncic. It's Luka's team. Don't get me wrong, it's Luka's team, but that they are going to dominate some people coming up, and they've got a really hard stretch of games. Let me pull it up here. I believe they have to play Boston next, and it's just I am going to be very excited to see Luka come back, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for them, just by the way they've been playing. Let's see. That is not it. Yeah, Dallas beating Milwaukee. That's what really set it off. I know that Milwaukee was kind of playing. I think they were kind of looking ahead to the Lakers coming up on Thursday, tomorrow. So they're going to really be. They really wanted to rest some players, and Dallas just took advantage of that, and I was very happy with that. The next couple of games they have, this schedule is brutal for Dallas, but I think they can definitely make it through. Hosting Boston, at Philly, at Toronto. They're playing the 3 best teams in the in the East, and then they have to go. They host San Antonio, who has kind of. San Antonio's a really strange team because they'll have a game where they'll play really, really well against like the Rockets, but then they'll play the Cavaliers and lose. So it's just I don't know what San Antonio's gonna do, and I think they're better at home than away, so it might be an easier game for Dallas. Then they play at Golden State. It'll be easy for them. Then they have to go to the Lakers. That is going to be like game of the year kind of stuff for the Dallas Mavericks. I am super excited to see this stretch of games. Boston Dallas is tonight actually, so after work I'll probably end up watching that. Very, very excited to see where they can go and how far they can go without Luca. So, speaking of the Lakers. This might be a pretty big hot take, but I don't think the Lakers are gonna win the NBA Finals, and I'll explain why. My issue with the LA Lakers, is that their roster in my opinion, is very old. They have 3 players that I can name off the top of my head that are in the later stages of their careers. They're gonna want a ring, but it's gonna be hard for them. Rajon Rondo is old. LeBron James is ancient, and Dwight Howard is up there with LeBron. So I have some reserves about that team's longevity, especially as we get later on into the season. I know Anthony Davis is insane. I've been watching him. He is an incredible talent. Not only being able to get as many rebounds as he does, getting to the perimeter and shooting is insane as well for him. He's just an all-around great basketball player. And that's all fine and good. But my issue is I'm watching LeBron James right now, and he doesn't look the same. He looks, to me, he's having, you can look at his statistical numbers, and you can say he's having one of the best seasons of his career. Where's the defense, man? Like, come on. Like, LeBron has had this problem for a couple years now, but this is the time where he should be getting off of his lazy butt and defending some players. I was watching the Heat game, and it was just like he was just looking around at everybody, not going up to make a play on the ball, looking around to his other players and saying, "Hey, did you get him on defense? Hey, did you get him on defense? How about you get him? Get him, LeBron. Come on, you're supposed to be the GOAT, right?" I just, it's astounding because Michael Jordan was such a great defender, and he always put the team on his back and wanted to make everybody else better. It makes me really angry, and this is the same sort of stuff that we saw in his later seasons at Cleveland. I like LeBron as a player, but I just want to see him go and do something amazing on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know. That issue is going to plague that team because there's one guy that won't defend, and it's the same issue that I have with James Harden and the Rockets. James Harden doesn't want to defend. He has to be made into a defender, and he has to have a night where he presses hard and he gets to the opposition really quickly. So that's why I just don't think that it's going to work out between for the Lakers in the long run. Also, my other issue is Dwight Howard can't play offense, and he's going to be on the court a lot. As soon as Boogie Cousins gets back from his injury, they're going to have a little bit more offensive potential and some good defensive potential. But as it stands right now, if Boogie is still out, it's going to be really hard for them to keep up that defense. And I know that Kuzma is playing well, and AD is playing well, but I have that sinking feeling that there's disappointment somewhere in that defense, especially when we're gonna see a lot we're gonna see how well that defense really stacks up in these next coming weeks, especially against Luca Doncic. Well, Luka's not gonna play. Well, he might play. We don't know based on his injury. But we'll see how they play against Dallas, such a good offense. And a pretty stout defense from Dallas as well. So, all right. Moving on, Premier League. Oh gosh, we are coming up to Christmas. Christmas in the Premier League is very exciting. I am very excited for all the transfers to go down and the 2 games that are coming up this weekend. But first, last weekend, Lester, what happened? Lester, come on, guys. Come on, Lester. This is a one-man race at this point. Lester is not going to take not going to take Liverpool. Liverpool, I believe, are up by 20 points currently. They have not lost a game this season, which is something that City really valued when they won last season. I mean, I think they only lost one or two games. So Liverpool definitely, I think Liverpool is the best team in the world currently. Obviously because they won the Champions League. Though some of my friends disagree with me that the Premier League is easier or is harder than the Champions League. I don't know. They both seem like tough competitions. And I think that the level of play in the Champions League is much harder, even though there are less games than in the Premier League. As a little side note, I think Liverpool is not gonna get caught, though. Leicester tying Norwich is a big issue for the rest of the Premier League because nobody else I don't think is gonna catch them. City has a center back problem, and until Laporte gets better or until they finally get somebody else at center back, they're not gonna get better. They're going to have some games where they play really well against some garbage teams like Arsenal, but they will struggle against some other teams. And honestly, there might be some mid-table teams like Wolves and Everton and United and Tottenham that might be able to give them some problems. So we'll see what happens with City, but Leicester's issue is I think outside of Vardy, if you can stop Vardy from performing as well as he does, if you can man mark him, if that's still a thing, or if you can kind of eliminate him by dropping two center backs to guard on Vardy and putting a fast center back in your box, I think you can really stop him from scoring as much as he does. Even though I like Norwich, I don't like them enough to beat Leicester, tie Leicester, rather, which is pretty exciting for Norwich fans, I guess. So looking forward to next week's games, Liverpool versus Leicester. My score prediction is going to be 3-2. I think Salah gets a goal. I think Mane gets a goal, and I think not Firmino, either Wijnaldum or Henderson, depending on who's playing CDM. The CDM spots will get a goal, or maybe Van Dijk will get a corner. It is going to be 3-2 to Liverpool. Leicester, I think that this Norwich game shocked them, and they will play really well. They'll get off they will take the first lead, but Liverpool's the better side. They have the better defense. They have the better philosophy. They have an experienced head coach. They're going to get it done against this team. I could see it be a 2-2 draw as well, but I would put my cards on Liverpool winning the game over Leicester. And then another exciting game is City-Chelsea. This is going to be another one of those games where City is going to look kind of rough, but they will take a lot of shots on target, and they will get the win. I think it'll be 2-0 to Chelsea. To City rather. I like Chelsea. I love what Frank Lampard is doing with almost nothing outside of in-house supplies and Christian Pulisic. It's insane what they've been able to do. Christian, I think, has kind of regressed since his 3 goals and then his couple of goals here and there in some Champions League games. I love Christian. I am a big fan of him. I'm wearing his jersey currently. If you can see that, maybe. Yeah, Christian. So I I really like what he's been able to do with that team when he first got there. But I think, and I was talking to some of my friends about this. We really think the issues with Christian Pulisic is his ability to shed physical players. He's not a very physical guy. He's very fast. He's very skilled with the ball at his feet, but he's not as physical of a presence himself. So if he could bulk up a little bit going forward, he would be an insane player, and I would love to see him do that. So City, though, I think will win this game. It might be 2-1. I could also see it being 2-1 just because of City's defense is not very good, and they really need to bring it back bring in a center back. So, excuse me. Yeah, it'll be a big game for City to win that, and if Chelsea wins, this could turn around their season and help them be able to make top four and keep out United and Tottenham. So, very excited. Arsenal, huge mistake if they get Arteta, in my opinion. If I was running Arsenal at this moment, my main priority is to bring in somebody that we know who's a proven guy, somebody that we know has good philosophies, somebody that we know is a good leader. I would not bring in Arteta because he's never been a Premier League head coach. He's been at City for 3 years. 2 years. And he doesn't know he hasn't been a fully fledged head coach. He's just been an assistant coach with Pep Guardiola. I think this is the best hire they could have of somebody who's a non-coach, but I still think they needed to bring in the Napoli coach. They could. I don't think this could happen because Pochettino wouldn't want to coach Arsenal. But if they could bring in Poch, that would be insane for that club. I think Poch is a better manager than he led on for the end of his career. There are a lot of openings that I think would be a lot of players that are or coaches on the market that would be good for that club. And Arteta, we don't know what he's gonna do. I want to like him because he's a young up and coming guy, and he wants to bring in. We don't know what his tactics are gonna be, and it'll be interesting to see what he wants to do with all these players, and especially a defense that needs help. God, please fix the defense. So, yeah, Arteta could be amazing, but we have no clue what he's going to be going forward. Moving on, some baseball news. Finally, we got some baseball news that came to fruition. Angels got Rendon from the Washington Nationals. Rendon has been their Washington's best hitter over the course of these playoffs. My issue is with the Rendon pick up. The Angels still have a lot of problem with their starting pitching and bullpen pitching, and I think Rendon doesn't fix any of those problems. It'll be a very, very, very strong 1-2 punch between Mike Trout and Rendon, but I just don't think that. I would like to see more pitching, and especially a team that need to make it to the playoffs. Excuse me. Right now with this core, because they don't know how long they're going to keep Mike Trout. They need to advance and do as much as they can with the pitching going forward, and not having enough money because they used it on Rendon would be an issue that they could find themselves in when trying to sign another pitcher, especially when other news, Garrett Cole is going to the Yankees. Cole, I think, is... I don't think he's the best pitcher in baseball, but he's definitely a top 5 pitcher. This whole experiment with the Astros are starting to implode very quickly. And I could see some of their other players getting moved just because of the fact that they have been caught with this huge scandal that came out. Cole to the Yankees, I think, will be good for them. I always thought that their problem was bullpen pitching, but if they could put him into the bullpen and kind of ease his way into a starting spot, that would be a pretty good thing for that team. Aroldis Chapman, I believe, is still there, so their closers they definitely still have their closer. My issue is going to be starting bullpen spots is going to be hard. So we'll see. Hopefully they'll be able to figure something out and then move on. And then the big news for me as a Reds fan, Mike Moustakas to the Reds. My issue is the Reds, they needed a better power hitter, which is fine. Moustakas is pretty okay hitter, better than okay, but regardless, my issue is now they have 2 third basemen on their roster, and I heard that they would want to move him to second base, and then have that young kid that played short and second to kind of rotate. Freddie Galvis. They'll want him to move back and forth between the second base and the shortstop spot, and putting in Israel Iglesias, hopefully, if he stays. I would love to see Iglesias stay. He is one of the best clutch hitters on that team. He's not overall great, but when we need him to do well, he will get the hits and the bases that he needs to win games. I think if the Reds can keep a lot of the core that they still have, they can be a playoff contender. I think Garrett needs to stay, definitely, and they should move him to a closer spot over Iglesias. And then they can rotate between those two at the closers. And then they should try, and I know this is going to be really difficult, but they should try and move off of Joey Votto and get another outfield power hitter. If they wanted to get Chris Bryant, that would be a really good thing for that team, and play him in the outfield instead of first base. It might be a little strange because Chris Bryant is from Chicago. I would like to see him either play first base, or if we get rid of Votto, or move him out to the outfield into a power hitting spot. So, yep, that is what I think the Reds should do going forward. Another player that they could possibly get and would be really good for that roster is if they could get Yasiel Puig back. That would be insane. Yasiel Puig is exactly what they needed, minus the crazy off the field antics, not off the field, but like extracurricular fighting. So I just think that would be really good for him, but I don't know exactly if that would be. I don't know how well he would do back in a Cincinnati uniform outside of his actual play. His actual play will be insane, but yeah. And then last thing I wanted to talk about, just a moment of your time, I wanted to kind of gush about Joe Burrow. I watched his speech, um, the Joe Burrow Heisman speech. I watched that, and I very much accepted that the other players wouldn't win. He was obviously the best player in the country. He had the best completion percentage. He carried that offense as much as he could. Um, Chase Young is good. He's a solid player. He might be the best player in the country, but he wasn't going to win it because he's not a quarterback. Sadly, I would love to have seen Chase win it, but it's just not going to happen. Jalen Hurts, it's a consolation prize for being there. He wasn't going to win the Heisman. Honestly, if it were me, I would put in. I would have voted J.K. Dobbins or Chuba Hubbard over him. In my opinion, I don't think Jalen Hurts is as good of a quarterback, especially when he struggled against some kind of not great teams. And he will get thoroughly thrashed by LSU in the national championship. And then Justin Fields, he'll be back next year. Him and Trevor are gonna fight for it next year. And maybe if Chuba Hubbard is back, they will fight over that as well. And maybe J.K. Dobbins. I don't know if Dobbins will want to stay or go into the draft. We haven't really figured that out yet. So there's going to be an opportunity for Fields to be back in that spot. And honestly, there's an opportunity for Chase Young as well. He was talking about him possibly wanting to stay for another season. It's all going to depend on what his draft stock will be. It's mainly because I think he wants to be the first overall pick. I would take this now because I don't know how well he can do when people know how to play against him in the following season. So I would definitely stick with going into this draft, but then again, that's not me. Joe Burrow is a stand-up guy. His speech was very thoughtful. He's just a nice kid. He thanked his offensive lineman first before thanking anybody else. He thanked everybody in Ohio for that. All of his coaches, all of his ex-players. He thanked some of the Ohio State players and coaches while he was there. There's no animosity towards Ohio State for him. I think he grew up an Ohio State fan, and he loves that team with his whole heart. But he had to go to Baton Rouge if he wanted to ever make it into the NFL. And thank God he did, because look where he is now. It's just an amazing story, and I think if Cincinnati were to take Joe Burrow, it would be the best possible thing for that team. They have had their last two quarterbacks, who had been drafted to Cincinnati, and on their way out, they have said, I don't like this team. Dalton is getting frustrated with the organization, and Carson Palmer said that he would never step foot in Paul Brown Stadium for the rest of his life. So I think it's best if they were to take a quarterback who is low risk, they know is going to be a solid talent, and because he's a prototypical college quarterback or pro quarterback. He's got the height, he's bulky, and he's got wheels on him that can he's deceptively fast, and I think he will have a very similar career to Josh Allen, but with a better, more polished arm. I really like Joe Burrow as a prospect, and I would love to see him in a Cincinnati Bengals uniform. And I think the Bengals will take him. Being from Athens, Ohio, they always want to take players that are from Ohio. If they could, my dream scenario is if they could trade up and get Chase Young and Joe Burrow. That would be amazing for me. But I doubt that will happen. I think they will take Burrow. If they take Chase Young, if he goes in this draft and they take him, that's fine by me. I would have liked to see Burrow over Chase, but you take the best player in the draft, and if you take Chase, then that's fine. My issue is if they take Tua Tagovailoa, I am probably going to burn my Carson Palmer jersey because it's Achilles Smith all over again. He will be an injury problem for the rest of the year, and he will no longer be with the team in 2 years. So, yeah, I think they should take Burrow. And they should take Young, and if they take Tua, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But it's gonna be really sad for me if they take Tua. So, Mike Brown, if you're listening to this, don't take Tua. Take Joe. Anyways, so this has been the All Sports Podcast. It's a little bit shorter, I know, but I just have a lot going on at the moment with work. This winter break with the holidays coming up, it's been pretty busy for me. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Christmas break if you are on Christmas break. If not, then sorry. But hope to see you guys in the next episode. See you later.